verse 24. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24. And I'm going to talk about basically what it says in the verse about races, being in a race. What I have titled this is Do We Want to Lose? All right, I'm going to read the verse 24, and then I'm going to pray, and then we're going to get into the message. Know ye not that they which run in a race run all, but one receiveth the prize. So run that ye may obtain. Lord, thank you for letting us be able to come here today. Lord, just watch over us, keep us safe. Lord, help me to calm my nerves, Lord, and help you to speak through me, Lord, and help me to use none of my words, but your words only, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, so in this first verse I have for us, it talks about running a race, and it's talking about how if you're in a race, everybody runs, all right? And then it talks about only one's a winner, because that's how our race goes. I'm sorry, you do not get a participation award in a race, okay? We are not that liberal. All right. We want to run to obtain that prize. We want to run to obtain that first place prize. All right. How many of us in here do something to win? Who does when they play games? Man, this side is a bunch of losers apparently. All right, but we all do stuff. When we do something, we want to win at it. When we do a sport, when we play games, we want to win at it. We don't want to lose. All right? So, only one can win a race. And I'm going to compare this race to the race of the spiritual war we're at, and the religious races that are going on. Because there's different religions, obviously. Christianity. You got Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, just a bunch of different races. All right? Now, so we have those races, or we have that race. All right? First, we must be prepared for that race. If you go into a race and you're about to start running and you don't stretch, you haven't worked out, in the week before you haven't practiced, sometimes it even takes months to practice if you're running long races. And I tell you what, this race is a lifelong race. All right? This race is a lifelong race. Our spiritual race is a lifelong race. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop for you, even if you stop. It doesn't slow down. If anything, it gets faster. It gets harder. And as you run a race, if you've ever run a race, or if you ever at least run a long-term race, you know it gets harder as you go further into it. There was one time, for some reason, I was insane, and I decided to run a 5K. Now, some people might have ran more than a 5K, but me, I don't run. And I decided to run a 5K. I really don't remember why. But my wife, on the other hand, has run 5Ks, 10Ks. She's done a bunch of stuff. And she used to do that quite often, all right, before she met me, and I slowed her down. But she used to do that quite often. And you know that as that race gets longer, it's going to get harder because you're going to be out of breath. All right, but the smart thing to do is to pace yourself. And we also must be fit to run the race. If we're not fit as a true Christian to run that race, then if Christianity is depending on you, you've just lost it for us. All right, and right now, Christianity is depending on us because there are very few in this world that believe the way we do, that believe that Jesus is the only way to heaven, that believe Jesus died on the cross, that he rose from the dead. There's other ways people try to say, I can get to heaven this way. No, I can get to heaven this way. There's also people who say there is no heaven, there is no God, there is no Jesus. All right? So in here today, we all believe the same thing. We believe what I just went through. Jesus died on the cross. Jesus lived a perfect life. Jesus rose again the third day. All right? Stuff we know and we believe. But do we show it? Do we show that we believe it? Outside of here, wherever we go, if we work at a secular job, do you show that you are a Christian at your job? Do you show that you're a Christian at the gas station? Because I'm sure probably every single one of us have been to that gas station over there. I go there just about every day just because I get a Polar Pop for free because I do the sip and save. It's nice. But as we're running our race, we must be fit to run the race. We cannot be slack. We can't be unfit to run it. We need to be well knowledgeable in the Bible. We need to be well known in the Bible so that we can run that race and we can fight for what we believe in, and so that we don't get crushed by people that are out there, the evolutionists that are out there, the other religions that are out there saying that our religion is false. If we're well known in the Bible, then we will be able to defend it. But there's also some people that say, I don't believe in the Bible. So how are you going to convince somebody that doesn't believe in the Bible by using the Bible? That just don't make sense. All right? So you also need to get out there and be able to tell them from a secular point of view of how the Bible is true. And there's many, many, many things out there. All right? You look through the history of the Bible. Just about every city has been found. All right, except for 2 cities. Can you guess what they are? Sodom and Gomorrah. All right, why can't they be found? God destroyed them. If God destroyed something, I'm pretty sure you ain't going to find it. All right? And then you take, I just had a paper that I had to write. You take a science point of view on evolution. Science, there's something in science that teaches that the sun shrinks about, I think it's about 5 feet every year. It shrinks about 5 feet every year. And as far as I know, that's a proven fact. I'm not going to go out there and prove it. I'm not going to go out there and measure the sun. But if that were to be true, because it's science, science is fact, if that were to be true, in evolution, they say evolution is true. It goes back billions, even trillions of years. All right? So if every year the sun shrinks, if you go back a year, grows 5 feet. Go back a year, grows 5 feet. You go back billions, trillions of years, that sun has expanded past the point of Earth. All right? So how did Earth form if the sun was already there? If the sun was past that point of the Earth? That's just one thing that we can use on evolutionists, at least, to be able to defend our point, our Bible, from a secular view. And there's many other things out there, many other things. We also must know what race we should run. We should know what race we should run. All right? You go out there, and if you're not well knowledgeable in the Bible, you don't know the Bible very well, you don't know much, and you don't know much how to prove the Bible from a secular point of view. Do you think it's smart to run a race with a well-known evolutionist? It's not smart. All right? Don't try to be prideful and try to knock down this so-called well-knowledged evolutionist. All right? That would be not very smart. But we must run. If we're going to run a race, we must run to win it. All right? That's why I asked that question. Are we going to, the people that are in here, we all want to win. We all want to win. All right? Too many Christians are in the race today just to say that they ran a race. They're not in it to win it. Maybe even some of us are in here are like that. I don't know. It's your own heart. Are just in it to say, hey, I went to this Christian school. Hey, I went to Bible college. You're just in it for the name of it. You're just in it to say that, hey, I went here. I ran that race. All right? But then you're done. After that, you're done. You have nothing else to prove that you truly believe in what you believe. You just say, I went to this Christian school. I went to this Baptist school. It's like, oh yeah, what are you doing now? Oh, I work every Wednesday and Sunday. I can't go to church. I can't do anything. This work is just holding me back. Well, maybe you should look for a different job and start going to church. And as some of us, or some of them, whatever Christians are not in it to win it, they don't take it seriously. How many of us in here has taken each and every session of our class seriously? All right, I know I haven't. I know I haven't taken every single class period seriously. All right? And that's not a good thing. And I'm just going out on a limb here. I'm sure probably every single one of us in here have at least not taken one class period seriously as we've been here. And it's only, for freshmen, it's only the first semester. For others, it's longer in, and you should have realized by now that I need to take this seriously, yet you still don't. They don't run to glorify God. Christians that aren't in it to win it, they don't run to glorify God. They run to glorify themselves, just like I said. They run it so that they can praise themselves and say, hey, I went here. I went to Landmark Christian School. I went to Landmark Baptist School or college. They run it just for the name of it. We were at a teachers' convention, and this guy said a really good thing. In the political view, some people are called rhinos. All right, Republican in name only. That means they aren't really Republican. They're just saying that they're Republican just to have the name. And he came up with this word. He said CINOs. Some Christians are CINOs, Christian in name only. Don't be a Christian in name only. Don't be a Christian just here where other Christians are. Be a Christian in the world that needs Christians today. You go talk to people. I've talked to people all around here that have sometimes never even heard of God, never even heard of Jesus. And it's a whole lot worse over in other countries for people that don't know who Jesus is. And worst of all, when Christians aren't in it to win it, they quit. They quit out on God. They quit out on what they believe. And after they quit, there's no proof that they are Christian. There's no evidence. Don't be like that today. Don't be like that after you graduate college. If you graduate. All right, if you graduate. My freshman class started with 12 people. We have 3 graduating this year. 3. 25% stayed and are graduating this year. Now there are some that might have left because they felt like it was the Lord's will, or they left because they went to a different college. I'm not sure if that happened in my freshman class or not, but I do know some people that have left this college to go to a different college for different majors. But I'm not sure if that happened in my freshman class. So what I'm trying to say here, there's only 25% of us that have stayed and are graduating this year. Take that math out into the world. I've heard that even after people graduate, people will fall off the edge. I heard pastors come in here and say, yeah, I graduated, my class graduated with like 20, 30, 40, 50 people, and only just a few of us are still in church today. Only just a few of us are really, truly serving the Lord. How many of us are going to lose? How many of us are going to quit? I hope none of us. But I'm sad to say, most of us probably will. Just because we're not dedicated enough. We're dedicated to win games. We're dedicated to win volleyball. We're dedicated to win video games. But we're not dedicated to win for God. We need to train to win. When you don't train, you're bad off. When you don't train, everybody else that has trained will beat you. If we are not in it to win it, then why are we running? Why are we truly running if you're not in it to win it? If you're not in it to win it, I'll just go ahead and say this. You shouldn't be running at all. Don't run it and make Christianity have a bad name, but yet we're already in the run because we're here. We're in Landmark Baptist College. You're already known as a Christian. You're already in the race. So if you're not in it to win it, then something should change because you're here. You're already here. Something should change and make you in it to win it. Make you want to win it for God. Make you want to glorify God. If you're not in it to win it, you need to get your heart right. If we are in it to win it, then do not give up when it gets hard to obtain the prize, when it gets hard to obtain that first place. Like I said, as you're running a race, it gets harder and harder and harder as you go on. And this is a lifelong race. It ain't no short race. It's a lifelong race. If you're in this race, then you're in it. Whether you quit, whether you just stop, that race is still going, and it's leaving you behind. That race is still going to go on for your entire life, and it's just leaving you behind, leaving you way back in the dust. We need to obtain the prize. We need to obtain that prize. We need to win it for God. We need to win it. We need to glorify God in what we do. When we finish our race, will God say to you, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant"? Will he? That is a big question. That is a huge question. Now, you might think right now, if I were to die today, I truly do believe that God would say, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant." You might believe that. I don't know. And he might even. But you still have life ahead of you. You can fall off the deep end. And if you don't remind yourself to stay faithful, to stay godly, then when you get to heaven, God's not going to tell you, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant." God is not a liar. He's not going to sit there and tell you you did a good job when you didn't throughout your whole life. If you want God to tell you, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant," you got to do well. You got to do good. It's in its own phrase. You got to be faithful throughout your life. Faithful. And you got to be a servant. And servants are not arrogant. Servants don't brag about what they've done. Say, "Hey, I did this for the Lord. I did this for the Lord." You know what? No, you didn't. The Lord let you do it. The Lord did that for you. Reverse the thinking. Perspective matters a whole lot when you're looking at things. I mean, if I were to draw a 9 down here, And the 9's facing y'all. Y'all think it's a 9. I think it's a 6. That's just how that works. Y'all think it's a 9. I think it's 6. I'm standing up here telling you that's a 6. Y'all are down there. No, it's a 9. Well, are you crazy? It's a 9. And I'm down here, no, it's not. I'm standing up here behind the pulpit. I'm right. That's a 6. Perspective. Perspective. Will God tell you, well done, thou good and faithful servant, or will he look at you with disappointment? When you get up there, will he be disappointed in the life that you've lived because you didn't live it for him? You didn't live to glorify God. Let's go over to Hebrews 12, verse 1. Hebrews 12, verse 1. Hebrews 12, verse 1 says, Wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witness, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us. We need to lay aside those weights of sin. We need to lay aside our life of sin if we're going to run this race. We need to lay aside it. Lay aside the weights so that we can run. Now, if you're in professional racing, then while you're training, you're going to have weights. All right, especially for the push-off. You're going to have weights because you're training. It makes you heavier. And if you can run while you're heavier, you sure can run when you're lighter, when you take those weights off. So when we run that race, now I'm not saying we need to put sin on to train. No, I'm not saying that at all. That's not what I'm trying to say here. I'm saying we need to take the weights of sin off. The sinful lives that we've lived, we need to take them off. Put them aside so that we can run this race to win. The weights of sin will hold you back from winning. If you're trying to run this race with the weights of sin on, you're going to be slow. You're going to be slowed down from your full potential. God has a potential for us. He has a plan for us. But if we're living lives of sin, he's not going to be able to use us like he wants us to. Like I said earlier, get your heart right so you can run this race correctly. A sin that so easily besets us is so easy to just go back to. It's so easily just to go back to what sin that we know, to the sin that we know. It's so easy to go back to it because sometimes we feel like it's enjoyable, but it's only enjoyable for a season. Sometimes we feel like, this is what I've done all my life. I'm not going to change now. If you're living a sinful life, you need to change. Die to the flesh daily. And we were doing a study on 2 Peter, and it lists a whole bunch of list of godly attributes or godly characteristics. And in the next few verses, it talks about how that we need to be reminded of those godly attributes. Yes, we know what we're supposed to be doing. We know we're supposed to be godly. We know we're supposed to have brotherly kindness. We know we're supposed to have charity. We know we're supposed to do all those things, but we need to be reminded of it. All right? And I don't think your mom or your dad or your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your wife and husband, or your wife in my case, her husband in her case, I don't think that they're going to sit by you day by day and keep reminding you that you need to live like this, you need to live like this, you need to live like this. Now, when you were in their house, it was basically your parents' job to do that. And my parents did do that. Whether I listened or not is a different question. But you need to have something that reminds you each and every day in the morning to be godly. Whether you have a sticky note on your mirror that says, die to the flesh, whether you read in the morning, you do your devotions in the morning, which is a really good thing to do. It's starting the day off really well. You need to be reminded of the godly ways of how we should be living. Because if you're not reminded, you're going to forget. You're not going to think about it. You're going to forget. You're going to just turn away from it and go the other way. If you don't decide every single day to die to the flesh, to live godly, then the besetting sin that's so easy to go back to, you're going to go back to it. Don't do that. In the verse, it also says, run with patience. The race we are running is no short race. Pace yourself and grow in the Lord. As you're running, get stronger in the Lord. Pace yourself. Don't try to go full blast at the beginning. Don't try to be full on at the very beginning. You need to pace yourself in a race. We need to be patient in a race. Do not wear out at the beginning. Keep focus on yourself while you're running that race. Don't look at the people in front of you. Don't look at the people behind you. Focus on yourself and what you're doing. Because you start looking at the people in front of you, you're going to be like, I can't win this race. And you're going to turn back to that sin. You look at the people behind you, you're going to be like, I got them beat. I got them beat. And when they pass you, you're going to be discouraged. Just focus on yourself. Focus on yourself, what you're doing for God. Because if you pace yourself and the others in front of you haven't, and the ones behind you are already worn out, then when that race gets longer, you're going to be able to pass the ones that are worn out in front of you, and the ones that behind you are already worn out. And that's when you get ahead in the race. And now, quickly, if we would turn to 2 Timothy 4:7. Second Timothy 4:7. It says, I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. What will God say to you? Will God say to you, well done, thou good and faithful servant? Or will he say, I am disappointed in you, you sluggard? What will he say to you when you get up there? Have you fought a good fight? Have you fought a good fight? Or have you been a coward and ran away from what you should be running toward? Did you finish the race? Or did you quit on God because you're a quitter? And if you are a quitter, not saying that anybody is, but if you are, change it for God at least. Change it for God. Have you kept the faith, or did you let Satan take you out of the race? Were you faithful? Again, that verse says, I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. Are we going to be able to say that at the end of our lives? Are we going to be able to say that? That we finished, that we did good, that we kept the faith, that we kept our faith? Are we going to be able to say that? All right, right now, we might all be able to say that. But in the future, a future to come, are you going to be able to say that still? Or are you going to fall off the deep end? Look ahead. Satan's fighting hard, and he doesn't fight fair either. He's fighting hard, and it's just going to get harder. Are you going to keep the faith? Are you going to keep fighting? Are you going to fight harder? Or are you just going to quit out? Or are you just going to let Satan take you out of the race? How will you run today? How will you run tomorrow? How will you run Will you finish? Will you run? Will you have fought a good fight? Will you have been faithful? How will you run in your life? Your life is not just today. It's just not tomorrow. We need to be dedicated to what we believe. We need to be determined to run a race for God. We don't need to be sitting back and letting everybody do everything else for us. And we don't need to wait to the last minute to decide if we're going to do it or not. I'm preaching at myself right there. I procrastinate like nobody else. And I'm so good at it, and it looks so good when I'm done. But that's not how we should do things. It's not how we should do things at all. Because if we just procrastinate and we wait till the last minute, we're just sitting there trying to get everything done. We're not actually fully paying attention to what we're doing. We're just trying to get it done. And then we don't retain what we just did. Here, the teachers want you to retain what you're doing. They want you to retain the verses that you memorize. In that teachers' conference, there was a guy that said that he hates regurgitation, just regurgitation. Verses that you've memorized, that you can read off so easily, but you haven't applied it to your life. He's like, that irritates me so much because there's no application to it, because you've just wanted to memorize it, and when somebody comes up to you and challenges that verse, you just back up because, I don't know. I only know the verse. I don't really understand the verse. Well, get in your Bible and understand it. Again, how will you run your race in this life? If we would all bow our heads and close our eyes.